Paul in 2 Thessalonians talks about being equipped for every good work. He talks about how he wants Christ to bless and celebrate the work that's going on in the church in Thessalonica. And all of this is based on a couple of things. One, Christ knowing who he is, knowing his relationship is secure with the Father, and knowing the work he's called to do. That same basis that we see modeled by Christ is the same thing that gave Paul hope. It's the same thing that gives you and I hope. One, we know who we are. Our identity is not determined by our social media footprint or what somebody else said about us. And when we grow up as a teenager and all of that, we are desperately afraid of what other people think about us or what other people will say about us. Only later do we realize that most of the time people are speaking out of their own pain and trying to deflect that onto us rather than speaking truth into our lives. And one of the most significant moments that happens is when you receive your name. This is who you are. It's in that moment of conversion, in that moment of transformation, when you hear from Christ, this is who you are. This is what I made you to do. This is what I'm calling you to be. And you're allowed in that moment of forgiveness and grace to let all of the false assumptions and false teachings and lies about who you are to drop away and to be true to who you are in Christ. The first thing is knowing who you are. Knowing that relationship is secure. People who study babies tell us that the number one fear of a baby is abandonment. That the baby is scared to death that you're going to walk off and leave it. That's why when you go into another room and the baby can't see you, the baby will cry. The baby doesn't know you're just in another room. The baby doesn't know you're coming back. And it takes a long time for that trust to be built that the baby will know that you're coming back, that you're not going to abandon it. You know, that is the number one fear for all of our lives, isn't it? Right? That we're going to be abandoned, that we're going to be left by ourselves. We can take a lot of things. What we don't want to do is have to do it by ourselves. So we're always afraid that we will do something that will anger God, disappoint God, frustrate God, and he won't love us anymore. That question has been answered. That issue settled. There's nothing you can do to make God love you more than he loves you right now. And there's nothing you can do to make him stop loving you. Why? Because that's who God is. And what he does is directly connected to who he is. It has everything to do with God and very little to do with whether or not we're lovable. Because of that, we're always secure in the relationship that we have with God. Nothing can separate us from the love of God that we have in Christ Jesus. Because we're always secure in that relationship, we're always secure in our identity. Because we're always secure in our identity, because we're always secure in the relationship, then we can be secure in what he called us to do. The mission. Now, your mission is going to be different than my mission. And everybody who's on a mission thinks it's the best mission of all time, and everybody ought to come do my mission. You do your mission. You do you. You do what God called you to do. That's where you focus. That's where your joy is. That's where your purpose is. That's where your impact will be. So don't let anybody talk you into something that you weren't created for. Don't feel guilty because somebody really, really, really wants you to do that. You be who you are. You do what you're created to do. Know who you are in Christ. Know your relationship with the Father is secure, and because of that, you're called, invited to work with God in some kingdom significant moment. Don't let anybody rob you of that treasure or of that joy. I'll give you about 60 seconds to think about that, and I'll see you tomorrow.